Okay, everyone. So in this video, we're going to talk about the pay, the agencies, and what no one tells you. So in my previous videos, I've been asked which agency have I worked with, who pays the most, which state is the best place to travel in, and much more. And there's other things that a lot of travelers don't really talk about, which I really want to mention. And let's start. Let's start with one of the most common questions I get asked as a traveling CLS, and that is which agency pays the most. Now, that really all depends on many factors. One of the factors that it depends on is, do you understand the contracts, the stipend? Do you understand how the money moves? How much experience do you have? Do you understand where the money comes from? I made a video that's called the free masterclass where I dig deep into all the understanding of how the money works, how it flows into from the facility to the agency into your pocket. And I suggest you watch that to really understand how the money moves. If you don't understand how that works, then you won't understand which agency pays the most. When it comes to the agency, it also depends on location. So it depends on the agency size, depends on what it says on the contract, the language on the contract. So there's multiple things you have to look into. So agency and pay, right? What is the reality? So here's really like the easiest way to think about it. There's small agencies and there's big agencies. If there's a small agency, there's gonna is a higher chance you're gonna be paying more. Why? Because they have less overhead to worry about. They have less people to pay, so they have a bit more leeway, or let's say extra money, to give you, the traveler, in your pocket. There's pros and cons about that too. The bigger agencies, they have more people, they have more staff, they have a department for compliance, they have a department for onboarding. It's not just one or two people doing the onboarding or compliance, it's multiple people doing the compliance. So it's a bit more overhead, they got more people to pay. So there's their percentage that they take from the facility is going to be higher versus a smaller agency. And so it really depends on what you're looking for. So remember, smaller agencies, higher pay package, less structure, there's more risk. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by more risk. With larger agencies, there's slightly lower pay, better compliance, right? You get, if you have an issue, if issue arises, you can call them, text them, and they'll probably be there pretty fast to resolve the issue, depending on what it is. And there's more protection. About a year ago, I worked with a smaller agency. They were paying really good, really good. And so I talked to them. We smooth onboarding process. Everything was good. However, when there was an issue I had with the pay, that's when things got a little bit complicated. I actually learned that this small agency was an overseas agency. Now their headquarters, they said they were in the States. And on the website, it says the headquarters were in the States. But they were having people overseas working for that company, which in my mind for the CEO is brilliant, right? You want to get more money from these hospitals, from these facilities, which gives you a more attractive pay rate for the traveler. Of course, I'm going to jump on that because you're going to pay me more. But there's cons to that. The cons is there's risk. There isn't a lot of compliance and there's not a lot of protection. So one of the things that happened to me, as soon as I started working at this facility, they do their hours differently. They don't do it Sunday to Sunday, they do it Monday to Monday. So because of that other day that was off, when I would submit my hours, one week was 32 weeks and the other week was 48 weeks. So when I would get paid for my 32-hour week, it was less than my 48-hour week. And you were probably saying, like, of course you're gonna get paid less. It's 32 hours versus 48, which is understandable. The thing is, when I was looking at my hourly rates and my stipends, I was questioning a lot of stuff. I said, how come I'm not getting I'm not getting my stipends paid in full? So then I contacted this agency, and this agency was like, yeah, you're not completing your full 40 hours. That's why you're not getting paid your full stipend. And I was like, I've never heard such a thing. I work with other agencies, and even if I don't complete the full 40 hours, I still get paid the full stipends. And that was weird. And the other thing that was yeah, I got overtime pay because I was doing 48 the following week, right? So every 2 weeks I would do 48 hours, which is 8 hours of overtime. And I was getting paid overtime. But then I told myself, would I rather get paid overtime or get my free tax-free money on the stipends? So after doing the calculations, yeah, it was a few $100s, but I'd rather get tax-free money versus getting my 8-hour overtime taxed. See where I'm coming from? So these are the little things that you got to be careful about. You got to watch out for. And an experienced traveler will understand that. Someone who's new, they would be like, what? Kind of like confused about it. That's why it's good to watch that full video I talked about where I break down all the money, how it works, the general percentage these agencies use to pay themselves, and then the rest to pay you and where that money comes from. So going back to the story, I had a hard time back and forth with them. So not only did I find out that they were not paying my full stipends, they were a small agency, but they were overseas. And that was a whole dilemma in itself because there was this one time where they had said it was a holiday in their country. And I was like, what does that have to do with the US banks? Like, I need to get paid. I got bills to pay. I got bills to pay. So that was another thing that I didn't like was the fact that because they had a holiday in their country on a random day, they couldn't deposit my money. So you got to be careful with things like that. I didn't extend with them. I ended up going with a different company, a company I used to work with, which I will mention later. And but those are the things you gotta look out for these small companies, these small agencies. Now the big agencies, again, better compliance, more protection, faster response, maybe less paid on a weekly, on a monthly can be up to $800 probably. Um, so it's really up to you. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the money and not care about compliance or not care about an issue that arises? Or do you not care and you're like, all right, I rather just get paid this amount, and if there's an issue arises, I really don't care. With that said, it really is up to you if you want to work with a small or a large agency. Now, the agencies I work with, a lot of people have asked me, which agencies have you worked with? And over the years, I have worked with multiple agencies. Each one has their pros and cons, honestly. And you'll be learning that as you keep traveling over the years. If you go to different companies, you'll learn that there's a lot of pros and cons. And you're going to choose one that really fits best with your needs and what you like about them, which I'll be mentioning which one is my favorite. So, first and foremost, I've worked with Fusion, Aureus, AMN, CompHealth, and Cross Country. Now, I'm not going to name the other country. I'm sorry. I'm not going to name the other agency that I mentioned about, the overseas, just because I really don't want to talk about them. But I work with all those agencies, and so far, my personal favorite has been Cross Country. Why has Cross Country been my favorite? Because they're based in the States, they're reliable, they're consistent with pay, they're really good with sick leave and all that stuff, really good with the onboarding process. They have clear communication, they're accountable. The only downfall about Cross Country is that they don't pay the travelers the full 100% stipend. They only pay about 97%, which is a few dollars. Honestly, it's not a lot. It's like maybe $6 per week, which is $12 per month. It's not a lot of money. 3% is not a lot. So I'm okay with that. It's not a big deal. But I rather have that less money than not being able to sleep at night. All right, because the other agency I mentioned to you as an example with the small agency being an overseas agency, yo, that thing gave me a headache. I was like clueless and trying to figure this stuff out. But that's the agencies I've worked with and who I am currently working with. CompHealth is a really good agency when it comes to strikes. I've noticed that. I've been on a strike with them once, and they have recently called me for the next potential one. So I think they're pretty good with strikes. I haven't worked with them with the full contract, so that's all I have to say about them. AMN was cool. They're a huge company. Aureus, I don't even know if they exist anymore. And Fusion, those two. Fusion, it's all right. They pay a very low hourly rate. They do give you the full stipend though. but their hourly rate is pretty low. Aureus is cool. I liked Aureus. Full stipend there, really good hourly rate. And I just remembered one thing is you have to also understand that these agencies, they can be a third party agency or they can be like one-to-one with a hospital. For example, I'm gonna just make something up. Let's say Kaiser works one-on-one with cross country. So when that happens is there's exclusivity there. So when there's exclusivity with that facility and that agency, you get paid higher. But if there's a third party, like let's say Aureus, hey, we got a contract in Kaiser. They're not exclusive to Kaiser. They're like their third party, so you're gonna get less money. I've learned the hard way about that too. So watch out for that when it comes to traveling. Moving on to the next one, best state to travel. In my opinion, the best state, hands down, is California. The reason why is because they have the highest paying rate for travelers. Now, I understand that California is expensive. To live here is expensive. To rent here is expensive. But hear me out. If you know somebody who lives in this state, and let's say you have your next contract in Santa Rosa, California, and you know somebody who lives like 30 minutes from there, you're gold. I mean, like you're pocketing a lot of money. You can talk to this friend, relative that you have, and be like, "Hey, look, I'll pay you like $800 a month. I'm gonna be here for 13 weeks. Cool, cool, boom, boom, make some money." I think the best people who are banking right now with their money are RVs. People who have an RV are just is a huge win. I've seen facilities where I've worked at and the RV is parked in the parking lot. Yo, that person's banking. They don't have to worry about monthly rent. They just go to Walmart, buy their food, they probably shower at a nearby gym, and they're just living life. Like they're making a ton of money. So housing is where travelers either win big or lose everything. You got to really understand how this works, if it really makes sense to you to travel. If it doesn't make sense, don't do it. If it makes sense, then do it. Honestly, like that's what it comes down to. The next thing I want to talk to you about is that experience matters. Experience really, really matters if you're thinking about traveling. Okay. I strongly recommend you having at least 2 years experience as a generalist. The more experience you have, the more confident you feel and you're ready to like play the game. Once you start traveling to these different facilities, the training is like in 2 weeks. They train fast, you got 2 weeks to train, and if you don't get it, you're lost, man. And you're like stuck. And take really good notes, because that saves you a lot. Um, I know as a traveler, I've learned to take really good notes. And also, when you go to these different facilities, make sure they're properly training you. I've been to facilities where they don't properly train you, and it's scary as heck. It is crazy scary because you don't want to put your license on the line, right? No one wants that. So make sure they're signing you off, make sure they're checking you off, make sure that they're properly training you. And if you don't get that proper training, speak up. Tell them, hey, boss, supervisor, this is not happening. We got to make sure we get trained properly, we get signed off properly. I've been in situations where the training isn't the best. It's not proper. It's not checklist, nothing. I've been in facilities where it's super good, where I feel good myself. I don't even worry about anything else. Why? Because I was properly trained. I took really good notes and I was ready to fly. What makes a great traveler? Now, this is probably like the best thing that you need to know about what makes the great traveler. There's a lot of travelers out there that shouldn't be traveling. This should be the foundation of traveling. Is that traveling is not for everyone. Okay, traveling is really not for everybody. You got to have that specific persona, that character, that tough skin to be a traveler because you're going to confront different people, different personalities, and the last thing you want to do is like care about what people say, man. Like, seriously, have tough skin. There's gonna be some uncomfortable days. There will be uncomfortable days. You must adapt quickly, handle change, and learn on the fly. I've been there, done that, learn on the fly, handle change, adapt quickly. For me, it's fun. I like it. It's a great experience. I have no problem with that. And one thing I want to share with you guys is the skills can get you hired. Anyone can travel. Anybody. As long as you have the skills, the experience, all the licensure that the facility wants, you'll get there. But personality keeps you welcome. Remember that. The skills get you hired, but personality keeps you welcomed. And that's huge in the traveling game. You got to have a good personality. Don't be an ass. Don't be a crappy traveler. I've seen them. I've been with them. I've worked with them, and they're just annoying as hell. I wish they were not even traveling. I even question myself, why the hell are they even working? It's come to that point where I'm questioning, like, why? So it's like, dude, if you're unhappy, if you're talking shit all the time, like, why are you even here? Like I'm not a big fan of having negative energy. It's just horrible. It really messes up the environment. It messes up the culture. It's a waste of time. So if you're watching this and you're one of those guys, like, you need to stop traveling. But this is just to encourage you, if you are there or if you want to start traveling, like, really understand who you are as a person and if you can really get along with other people, right? If you can communicate, can you talk? Can you, like, are you shy or are you open to step up and say something? Like, that's what a traveler should do and should be. Someone who is open to change and fast and could quickly adapt to things, handle the change, and yeah, like, that's what a traveler should be. So the best advice I can give you is to be a good team player, communicate well, like I mentioned, and leave on good terms. Don't burn any bridges. Leave on good terms, because you never know if you're going to go back to that facility. Also, you want to live on good terms because if you decide to go full time again, you want to use those references. You want to make sure you got good friends, good people, they can back you up and have good references. So, like, don't be an ass traveler, be a good one. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. In closing, I just want to mention one thing that I'm really excited about. I'm building a community that's connecting my career as a CLS into the fitness industry, into the fitness world. So I've gone on this fitness journey for almost 3 years. I found high rocks. I do full marathons, half marathons, 10-kilometer runs, 5-kilometer runs, and I'm currently training right now for my next high rocks race. And so I decided to use all my CLS knowledge of 8 years and use it on my performance in the gym, use it for my energy, use it for my clarity, no brain fog, to be strong, to be ready to train. And this group that I'm building, you can find the link down in the description below. We're gonna have weekly calls there. You can have direct access to me there. You're going to be with like-minded people there, and it's going to be a science-based approach. So if you're looking for something like that, there's going to be a link down in the description below. It's going to be my school community. And that's it for today. Just wanted to cover all those things and hope you learned something. If you like this video, go ahead and like it. If you feel like it's going to benefit anyone who is traveling or who wants to get into traveling or is considered traveling, go ahead and share this video to them. And I'll see you guys on the other side. I'll see you guys in my community. Take care.